Joining me today on NYSE Floor Talk is Georgie Dickins. She is the managing director and co-founder at Cajetan Group, and she's also the founder of Women in Leadership Global. Georgie, it's always wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Judy.
A pleasure. So now, Georgie, tell me, what inspired your latest book, Leading with Impact, and how does it reflect your journey in leadership?
Yeah, and I have the great pleasure of working with some extraordinary global leaders as a strategic thinking partner and a trusted advisor. And being invited behind the scenes, I've seen the what and how they do it, and their influence, their impact, their ability to thrive in today's world and to lead with excellence. It's not by chance, it is by design. And for me, with this book, it was a distillation of all the lessons, the learnings, the insights that I gleaned from my conversations with them. And so many of these lessons, they're common sense, but they're not common practice. So there's no magic, there's no mystery. It is a set of attitudes, a set of beliefs, a set of lessons that we can all integrate into our own lives.
Now, all the lessons are underpinned by the word self.
Yes.
Can you share more about that?
All good leadership starts with self-leadership. The philosopher Aristotle said, knowing thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. The entrepreneur Stephen Bartlett has more recently said, you can read as many books as you like. If you can't read yourself, you'll never learn a thing. The most important relationship we have is with ourselves, and yet often it's the most neglected. We're too busy doing in that constant throughput of life. So self-leadership requires us to take a pause, to take a breath, to really hold the mirror up. Who am I? Who am I when I'm not the label of mother, wife, leader, friend? What's important to me? What are the activities in my life that energize me? What drain me? And so when we start to change the questions we ask of ourselves, we start to change our experience of life. Self-insight comes from intentionality, which really means we have to be thoughtful and intentional about taking that time for ourselves. And when we do that, it does start to change our experience of life.
Georgie, talk more about the mission and impact of Women in Leadership Global.
Leadership can feel like a solitary journey. Some of the leaders I work with, they reference feeling very lonely as a leader. I think it can feel very isolating. And there's a big difference between feeling alone and actually being alone. I created Women in Leadership Global with my co-founder, Claudia, as an opportunity to bring together inspiring, accomplished women. It's a powerful kind of community where our ambition is to harness the power of inspiring women, to advance the face of leadership, to drive that systemic transformation. It really is about working with these female leaders to unlock their transformative potential along with the male allies, because this is a collective endeavor. And it is the mission to make sure that there are more equitable, diverse organizations.
In your view, what are the critical leadership skills demanded by the modern world?
It's adaptability. If we look at the world around us, we live in a world of heightened disruption, climate change, geopolitical, wars, pandemics, and therefore it requires an inner resilience. It requires that bounce back ability. And it's really tough, let's be clear, because there are so many unknown unknowns that we're experiencing today. And therefore it requires us to really bring calmness, to not panic, just to take a breath. There is something called power in the pause. When we are faced with these challenging situations, power in the pause, what is actually happening? When we take a breath, we take a moment, we can lead with a considered response rather than a knee-jerk reaction. And there is a magnitude of difference in terms of how the outcome's experienced. Also, I think when we take a pause, we can collect ourselves. You know, what's actually happening in this moment? What are the stories I might be telling myself? What is the best course of action to take me through? So power in the pause, and I also think, what can you control? So often we can bleed energy on the things that we can't control. Really give thought to what is within my control here and what can't I control. If we think of somebody like an airline pilot, he can't control the weather. He can control his mood. He can control how he communicates on board. And I would also say when it comes to the world today, be curious, ask ourselves questions. Often we can look at the world linearly, with a linear view. Really, this is about zooming out, widening the aperture, and really giving thought to what is the best strategy or approach in this situation.
Now, as the pace of change accelerates, how should leaders think about making decisions?
It's a really good question, because the world is moving faster than ever before. And what we see often with leaders is they can attribute the equal energy and attention to every decision. Not every decision is equal. Jeff Bezos famously has the one-door versus two-door decisions. And the one-door are the irreversible, So they're the ones you sell your company, you can't buy it back. The reversible ones, what am I going to wear today? We could ponder and spend loads of time on that one. Actually, that's reversible. So really give thought to when you're making a decision, is it reversible, is it irreversible? And just, again, take that moment, take that pause. And when everything is moving so fast, really give thought to what is my emotional state in this moment, because when we are heightened, we're coming from a place of emotion. Being rational, being logical can leave the building. So again, take a moment, what is my emotional state? Exercising that power in the pause.
And finally, Georgie, with the relentless demands of today's world, how do you advise leaders to maintain optimal energy levels and avoid overwhelm and burnout?
If we think of our energy, it's like a bank account. And we are very good at making debits from that bank account. We say yes, we overextend ourselves, we are in that busyness of life. Putting the credits in takes time. It goes back to the self-awareness. We first of all have to be really clear on what are the credits. Is it going for a walk? Is it taking a nap? Is it reading a book? Is it cooking? And then making sure we're intentional about putting those credits in. We only have one body to live in. We can move house, we can't move bodies, and yet we can often wait for a life event before we take agency of our lives. Our body is always whispering to us. If you think about whether it's chronic backache, a lingering headache, challenges to our sleeping patterns, that is a message. That is a message from our body saying we're out of kilter, we're out of balance. And therefore it requires us to put those credits in to return to that optimal level. No one's coming to save any of us. So agency sits with each of us to put in those strategies in place in order that we can come from that place of optimal health. And it's easy to say, yet it's much more difficult to do. So I would ask each of you to really give thought to, when my life works, what does that look like? Who am I seeing? What am I consuming? What am I doing from a job perspective? And allow that to inform the choices that you make.
Well, Georgie, it's been wonderful to talk with you, and congratulations on the launch of your book, Leading with Impact.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy.